Hello, my name is Dr. Carl Candlepun, and this is the 13th official episode of my Lost podcast. As such, it features spoilers for up to and including Season 1, Episode 13, Hearts and Minds. It features no spoilers beyond this point in the show. However, if you have not seen at least to this point in the series, I highly encourage you to do so first before proceeding with this podcast. But without further ado, let's begin. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Dr. Candlepun's Lost podcast. I am Christopher Huth, otherwise known as Dr. Candlepun.
And I am Michael Huth, also known as X-ray technician Flickerson.
And today we are here to talk about Season 1, Episode 13 of Lost, Hearts and Minds. Last week you were talking about how the episode got you to question, like, wait, is this how Charlie dies? Like, is this the end of Charlie?
Yes.
So I was wondering, or not last week, but I guess that was 2 weeks ago for us.
Yeah,
It's so confusing for me, the way that I edit these. That was the last one that was released. That's why I was thinking it was last week. So I'm wondering, with this one, did you kind of think that Shannon had been killed?
Yeah, and so again, I went through the whole range of emotions again, where I'm just like, oh wait, is it? I guess she did die, only to find out. Hey, maybe not. So, and once again, I went through the whole range of emotions, unlike with Charlie, where I was like, I'm not disappointed. Like, somebody has to die. It's cool. It was her. Yeah, shame on me.
Yeah. So yeah, you got to experience that reveal all over again, I guess, of that what Locke put on Boone's head was in fact some kind of hallucinogen.
Yeah, and you know, something about it, nothing that I recall, but something about it, I thought to myself, it's that. Then he made the comment about the infection, and then I thought, oh, he's putting something on him to attract animals to him. My mind went 15 different directions, and then I settled back down and was like, yeah, I think it's a hallucinogen.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah, so there are some cool little clues that he's hallucinating. I mean, really, I would say, like, the first clue that he's hallucinating is that when he wakes up to Shannon screaming, like he looks off in this direction because that's where he hears it, and then he looks, and then he suddenly he's hearing it from over there.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
So guess what I thought when that happened? I thought, oh, she's not there at all. This is the voices on the island messing with him. You know, they're trying to lure him out, if you will. It's my mind went a couple places there too.
Yeah, no, that's fair. But then, yeah, another cool clue is that it shows Locke come upon Saeed while Saeed's like looking at Russo's maps, and they kind of have that discussion which ends with Locke giving Saeed his compass, and then he continues heading towards the beach, and then it cuts to Boone waking up and hearing Shannon, and then Shannon says that Locke drug her out there and tied her up. It's like he would have had no time or opportunity to do that.
Yeah. Well, you know what I thought? He pre-tied her up.
Well, except that if you think about it, if you had time to think about it, we see at the beginning of the episode, Shannon was on the beach with Saeed, and then Boone confronts Saeed.
Yep, and then he calls him off.
Yeah, and then Boone and Locke go off together, and then Boone was with him the entire time up until...
So you realize Saeed did it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's the reveal. Well, so let me pivot into that then, because we've talked a little bit about Locke and whether or not felt like he was nefarious. It's the word I think that keeps getting used. I think in the All the Best Cowboys Have Daddy Issues episode, mouthful, you were saying that was the episode where Locke was officially like not nefarious to you.
Like in my good graces.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you said it during the show or if it was after, but I think you kind of alluded to, oh, we'll see. You know, yeah. And so as soon as this took place, it's like, okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, so is it like
did you when he knocks Boone out, like where you said, oh, okay, like this is
Yeah, because once again, I couldn't remember what happened, but I'm thinking to myself, okay, he did that because he doesn't want her, or he doesn't want Boone telling his secret to Shannon or anybody else. He clearly had thought about that before. Like this wasn't just like a spur of the moment thing. He
was making the drugs beforehand.
He had thought he was going to need to do it, and he at least alludes that he believes he's doing it, as a service to him, and you can see that if you're a psychopath.
Well, that was my next line of questioning was so I mean, like it seems very sinister what Locke is doing in the moment that when he's leaving him tied up like that. But he claims that he's doing it to help Boone, and I would argue, or not argue, I think what the episode's saying by the end is that Boone does feel like it helped him. The fact that he goes off with Locke after realizing what Locke wanted him to realize, Boone feels as though that was for his betterment.
I got the sense that the reason Boone felt that it helped him is he was able to realize that, for lack of better terms, what a burden she has been. Not only his feelings for her, which were also revealed, Sweet Home Alabama-ish, but also all of the rescues and all the things he ever had to, has always had to do for her, and being taken advantage of, and of course he's crushed, she's gone, but like the word he chooses to use is relieved.
Yeah,
and completely understandable with the backstory, and then of course everything that's happened on the island. Just a little piece that we knew before the flashback, which was again also forgot how that all played out from beginning to end.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to that in a second. I want to finish that thought on the Locke, whether or not he helped Boone, and I mean, again, the point I was trying to make was that Locke thinks he's doing it to help Boone, or says that he is, and I think he believes that. Boone, I think, by the end, agrees. That doesn't necessarily make it not a bad thing to do. I mean,
it doesn't make it okay.
People that get sucked into cults may feel like it's helping them.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you knock me out when I'm not looking, and I wake up tied up with the decision to dislocate my own shoulder, potentially, to cut myself free in the woods on an island where we've seen a polar bear. There's boars, which we may know about them. Doesn't have to be anything spectacular about them. They run across you, you're in trouble. The monster, and then the monster or whatever.
Yeah. So there's all that risk, but then I guess what I'm trying to ask is that let's assume, because again I think that's what the episode's saying, that by the end Boone feels as though he has been helped. The way that it did play out, he feels that he's better for it. Does that then, because I feel like as an audience member that could then make you on board with what Locke did, or you could be uncomfortable with where that might be going. I guess I'm looking for.
It is a mixed bag there, because I'm not okay with that. But then there's always been this thing my whole life, that whole idea, like if somebody needs help bad enough, and they're the reason they need that help. That old adage, gotta hurt you to help you, that type of thing. I think that's the whole premise of this part of that story. Like he might seem nefarious, it might come across as a terrible thing that he's doing, but again, he believes that he's doing it for the right reason, and clearly he was. Like I don't think there was a scenario, or at least it hasn't shown itself, where he was just like, well, he might make it, he might die. Either way, I'll wait for him to come back or not. I think he
had faith.
Yes,
the belief.
That's exactly it. He was going to bring out exactly what would need to be brought out in Boone.
Yeah,
and I think he had belief and faith that he was going to pull that off.
Yeah. Again, whether or not that makes it right, I think he was convinced that it was going to play out the way that it did. Yeah, and I thought of something recently. The way we keep talking about this, like the two interpretations of Locke. There's like, taking like Star Wars as the example, you could read Locke as like the Obi-Wan Kenobi or the Gandalf from like the old wise mentor wizard guy, spiritual leader, or it could be like the more Stephen King like cult leader type, like believe something so fanatically that it becomes dangerous. And again, both of those could be true.
Yeah, it absolutely could. With Locke, you never know.
Yeah, so when it comes to what he did to Boone, I feel like that's like the interesting thing is that it could be very similar to what he made Charlie go through as far as having to choose. Obviously, this is a bit more extreme because he acted violently against Boone and physically did things against Boone's wishes at the time. But yeah, my point is that you could look at it as it was some spiritual guidance that he gave to Boone.
Yeah.
Or you could look at it as like, ooh.
Or you could look at it like he hit him with the hilt of a knife and knocked him out and tied him up in the jungle.
Yeah.
Either one, same thing.
Yeah. But okay, so I mean, I guess we moved to the flashbacks since you brought those up. Did that make you feel icky?
Well, yeah. I mean, I want to make it okay just so I don't have to turn off the episode. I mean, I know they're not biological brother and sister.
They go out of their. Did you catch that in the police scene where he's like, oh, he explains that the parents got married when they were 10 and 8, and then the officer's like, not blood related, and like. The point of that in the moment, I think, is meant to be like, oh, he's not taking this seriously because, like, oh, you're not actually even related to her.
Yeah.
But when you watch it on rewatch, it always feels to me like they're like, let the audience
not taboo.
Pay attention.
It's not as taboo. Yeah.
Because this, I mean, when Lost Air, this was incest before incest was cool. Like, I don't know.
Before what? Cruel Intentions?
But no, I'm talking like Game of Thrones, fucking. There's all kinds of. I know, but there's all kinds. There's all kinds of shows more recently. I mean, hell, most premium cable shows that I can think of have some version of it.
It caught me off guard because I didn't remember it. But then I'm like, that happens, and I flash back to all the feelings I've had since they were first revealed on the beach after the crash, and I'm just like, because if you remember early on, I was like, I think of their boyfriend girlfriend, and it's like, okay, that's why I had that feeling, which is weird having seen it, but still getting to experience all over again. Probably what they intended you to feel for at least a brief moment, so they can invite you into that little piece of the past. But it was rather interesting, and I'm listening and watching what's going on with his interaction with the Australian officer. And then I hear that voice, which draws my my mind over, or draws my eyes over, and he's what do you call them, like gator chasers or
crocodile hunter,
crocodile hunter,
crocodile hunter or something.
He's
like, how come nobody wants to hear my side of this?
Yeah. And I thought, man, which left me to believe, like, did they force him to leave? Is that how he ended up on that plane? Just that type of thing. So.
Yeah, well, because we still haven't seen why Sawyer was in Australia yet. Like his flashback episode was earlier. So that's could.
And I don't know that we had any indication where he was at when he last left. That scam. I don't think it was Australia.
It was definitely America, based on everybody else's accents. I don't know why I wanted to picture it in the South, maybe because that's where he's from.
I did because of the house. Yeah, the big front yard and the pillars on the porch. I think, if I remember correctly, it seems. Kind of Southern estate-ish.
But yeah, definitely in America. So you caught how Brian was saying that Shannon was just getting what she's owed because apparently Shannon's mother didn't give her any of her father's money when the father died.
Yes.
Just taking that at face value, I mean, does that alter any opinion you might have about Shannon doing what she's doing?
I mean, I still don't like her attitude. Now, in the flashback, what she was doing, like conning him to, and then him finding out that's what she'd done a couple other times. He'd never really rescued her. Yeah. He had just, given
classic Boone.
He'd just given her money she needed. And again, all's fair in that. Like whatever. Now, there might be a good reason why. She might not just be a selfish widower who never cared for his daughter. There might be a good reason why she, cut her out of the will, kicked her out or whatever she did. But I'm not mad at Shannon either way for that, other than the fact that she knew Boone cared about her. She probably could have just flat out said, hey.
Yeah, and to manipulate that in that way is kind of cruel.
You probably wouldn't have had to manipulate it. He probably would have made it happen either way.
Well, see, I can't say certain things because of spoilers.
Right.
I will say that you learn more about that situation eventually. And I think it contextualizes why Shannon wouldn't have just wanted to ask him.
Gotcha.
Well, okay, I can actually kind of point to something that has already happened. You remember the whole episode where Boone's like saying like, "Oh, you can't take care of yourself. Sorry, the ocean's not going to take your Discover card," or whatever he said. So in order to prove that she can take care of herself, she tricked Charlie into catching that fish for her, and that in her mind was her taking care of herself, because she manipulated somebody else into doing that. Yeah. Whereas I think in her mind, to ask somebody to do it
takes it out of her control.
Well, right, yeah. Exactly, yeah. She's the one pulling the strings,
instead of taking it.
So she's the one earning it, if you will, in her mind.
She's a psycho.
Well, so I think if you look at that instead of what I'm referring to that you find out later. That maybe kind of explains why she didn't want to ask him. Because, I like how you said it. It's like it takes it out of her control. If she asks him, there's the option for him to say no.
Yeah.
She's left kind of powerless in whether
she's done nothing for herself. Somebody did something for her.
Yeah. Whereas manipulating him into doing this, it's her, again, earning is the word she would use. Yeah. So, another thing in the flashbacks that I find interesting, that it's not like mind blowing or anything, but when everybody first crashes on the island, like everybody's got their wounds from the crash, and they kind of gradually heal. One of Boone's was that he had a bruise like on his jaw, and so you just assume that's from the crash. But in this episode, like it's revealed he got it from that punch, so he had it before they got on the plane. I thought that was kind of a neat little thing. I think it's fair to say, I could be wrong, but I think it's fair to say that you've had a pretty low opinion of Boone. So far.
Boone's,
Well, so did this episode change that
Boone already if there weren't fish? No, I mean, well, yes and no. He's still fundamentally flawed as this person who's trying to be seen. Just like the fact that he tells the officer, like, will make any difference if you know my mom is this and I'm her CFO or whatever he is. And, is it CEO?
COO. Yeah.
COO, my bad. Like, he says that, and it's just like, I mean, of your mom's company. Like, you would be anybody else's COO. Well, I have that feeling, you know what I mean? It just feels like another desperate attempt at him trying to be something that he's not.
Yeah. Well, I think he was trying to, like, well, I am somebody important, like, maybe...
No, I get it, but that's what I'm saying. He's not. He's not important on the island. He wasn't important before the plane crash. Like,
he might have also, I could be wrong, but he might have also been, like, trying to, like, float, like, hey, I could pay you if you take this seriously. Like, he might have been trying to hint at a bribe without like directly doing
saying it.
Yeah, and the guy was just like, yeah, I don't care. Well, and then I guess I could ask, like, so by that point in the episode, you didn't know that Shannon wasn't actually in this abusive situation. I think you being a cop, you probably know that it kind of does work that way. I didn't know if maybe you would have felt any of Boone's frustration at, like...
Oh, I mean, I feel it for people I've dealt with who believe that they can, get something to happen. Like, they go to the police and they want something to happen, and it doesn't matter why they believe that the police have that type of a power. Not talking about this situation specifically, but there just literally is nothing legally you can do. Yeah. I mean, like, from human being to human being, you go knock on a door and have a conversation, but the idea that you could force a situation, which, I handled a lot of calls like that in uniform. Not that you would have been forbidden to go and speak to somebody if they would willingly speak to you. You had no authority to change anything. You could communicate with somebody and hope to convince them to kind of change something on their own. So, everything being even, I never like to pass on an opportunity to make somebody feel heard or at least attempt it and say, yeah, I instead of just saying, well, there's nothing we can do. Well, there's something we can do. It's probably not going to get you what you want. We can give it a shot. We can go over there and spin a tail and see what happens, And believe it or not, depending on the way you approach it, I've helped people out where there was no legal recourse to force anything plenty of times. So, I like that. But I also respect that whether it's Australia or not, you go into a police station and you're, trying to get something like that done. Probably going to be a little more difficult.
Well, so did you feel kind of Boone's frustration at the officer's indifference?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
because that's another thing that, like, You only ever get to watch it. Well, I guess in your case, you get to watch it.
I can watch it twice once.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what I was gonna say was you only get to watch it the first time once, and therefore every other time I've ever seen it, like I know that she's got so I don't feel that frustration. But yeah, I do. I feel like I would have originally.
If I ever watch it a third time, I will not have the opportunity to have that feeling.
Yeah.
Well, I don't speak too soon.
Right. 20 years from now. Yeah. That would be funny. Like if we did a podcast 20 years from now.
Like, who are you and how'd you get in my house?
Well, so going back to the island, to some of the subplots. Last week we briefly talked about how Sun has now learned Kate's secret because they didn't realize she spoke English and they were talking about her being a fugitive in front of her. Well, now the very next episode, Kate learns Sun's secret. Has it now occurred to Kate? Like, does she even bother to think back to anything that she may have said in front of Sun?
Yeah.
Because I mean, like in the context of this episode, like Kate's just very friendly with Sun and supportive, and wants to understand, and then seems to once Sun says what she says. It seems to me that maybe it hasn't occurred to her that she said something in front of Sun.
Yeah, but it makes me think that it would almost be impossible for her not to have at least let it flash through her head is just how secretive she is about stuff.
And how recent it was.
And how recent it was. But she's just so
guarded.
Yeah, so guarded with everything else, which we've discussed ad nauseum probably. But she probably felt like, well, it doesn't really matter. She can't understand what I'm saying. She kind of lets her guard down, for a lack of better terms. And maybe she's just like, oh, wait a second. What all did I say? Or what, and maybe not. But I just found it interesting. I liked that it's revealed back-to-back episodes. And then in a weird way, completely side note, I also love the fact that Sun's out there making this garden and this orchard, all this other stuff, and that's kind of how that whole thing happened, because I forgot about that. But
yeah,
I like that she was doing it. I like that Kate liked it, and then I like that Jack was impressed when he got called in on that. So
yeah, Jack and Kate kind of. I don't know if "made up's the right word, but
that's exactly what I was going to say.
but after the last episode and how that kind of blew up. There's some awkwardness at first, but they sort of like are friendly to each other.
I'm gonna put that solely on Jack creeping through the trees, but
which kind of parallels the beginning of last week's, where Sawyer was the one picking on her.
Yeah, Kate's just getting used to letting her guard down for guys who peek at her through trees,
lurking.
I like it.
But I like that line where he's like, "Oh, I wasn't hiding." It was like I didn't want to interrupt whatever it is you're doing, and she says, "Well, it's not a secret." He goes, well, it's hard to tell with you sometimes.
Yeah. It's not a secret.
Okay, well, so then moving from Sun to Jin.
Oh, real side note, real quick. Yeah. This is where my mind went when she wanted to show him something. I'm like, is she going to take him to the waterfall? That literally crossed my mind for a split second. I'm like, yeah, probably not.
Okay, so moving from Sun to Jin, the Jin and Hurley thing, did you enjoy that?
I absolutely enjoyed that. Number one, love Hurley's sense of humor, which we talked, but when he's, and also through their entire interaction, I'm just like, Jin knows English. Like he completely knows English. He's playing Hurley.
Wait, so you think? I know you might be joking, but you think Sun secretly speaks English, and then you think Jin might also secretly speak English?
Yeah, and when I say secretly for him, secret for a different reason for him. Like he's not trying to keep him from her. For the same reason she's trying to keep from him, but more like same way he'd keep what he was doing for her dad away from her, like not specifically, talking about that.
And thinking about it as you're saying it, like it wouldn't even necessarily have to be a secret from her. Like there's nothing that says that. I'll finish what I was saying. I'm already second guessing it, but what I was thinking in the moment was that like there's nothing explicit that says that she doesn't know that he speaks English. Like she might appreciate that he wants to keep that a secret and isn't betraying him by revealing that.
But the only way she could know is that she overheard it, and he didn't know.
Well, no. What I'm saying is
after she learned English.
No, I'm saying maybe he, according to this train of thought, where he secretly speaks English, there's a scenario in which it was never a secret from her. Like she always understood that he spoke English, unless there's something I'm not remembering that you are remembering that on the island he had said.
No. I'm just going with the theory of, because what you're saying makes sense. She just wouldn't know that what he was saying when he was speaking English. She would just know that it was English.
Like in this hypothetical scenario, and I might cut all this out, but in this hypothetical scenario, either working for her dad or maybe even just before that. Like he knew English. She knew that he knew English, and then like she didn't know English, and then because of her wanting to escape him and her father, she secretly learned it herself. Doesn't reveal that to him. Then they crash on this island, and for whatever reason, he doesn't want to reveal to everybody else that he speaks English.
Right, and she's honoring that.
Yeah, she's not revealing it, partly because she would have to reveal that she speaks English to reveal that to anybody else. But she's not betraying it to Michael or Kate in this moment, just out of not wanting to betray that for him. All that's to say is like she could secretly know English and.
I know what you're saying.
You know
yes,
what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah. No, but back to that. There's this thing during their interactions where I kept like looking for things like, oh, he knows, you know. But then there's also the funny part where Hurley's testing him, and he's like, "Your wife's hot," you know. and Jen does look and has a response to that.
Well, I mean, he looks at him, but he doesn't. His expression's very blank.
Yeah,
which knowing him, you would think.
It would be a little bit more fiery.
Unless he does understand. I mean, obviously, again, going back
calculated,
to yeah. If he understands everything that Hurley's saying, then he knows Hurley's only saying that to get him to respond.
To get a rise out of him.
So yeah, if he did speak English, it would make sense that he doesn't react.
Yeah. Which I thought that was funny in the in the scene where he's yelling at him to pee on his foot, because he stepped on the sea urchin and all that other stuff. It was just that the whole thing was funny, and then all the way back to now he's back at the campfire talking to
Michael, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Jen brings him his fish.
Yeah. Which
that in and of itself, Hurley told him, if I drink this, you got to give me a fish. It's like, well, he understood at least that much, And then the fact that he'd already cleaned it for him. So
yeah. Well, I mean, again, just pushing back as I do. Like, if we want to assume that Jen doesn't speak English, I mean, you could read that as
he earned fishing.
He earned some respect for Hurley. Yeah. Hurley making the effort and then going through the pain and whatnot, and drinking the thing, even though it does end up making him sick.
Yeah,
like Jen gives it to him, and unlike the first time, Hurley drinks it, eats it, whatever, consumes it.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know. So that's me saying that I think that the way that that's being presented on the surface, whether or not it's eventually revealed that Jen understood him, the way it's being presented is like Jen.
Yeah,
Hurley earned some respect from Jen. Now let me ask: do you is that a legitimate theory of yours that you think he might speak English?
Jen speaks it. Yeah, 100%.
Okay.
Yeah,
interesting.
I think he does.
Okay. So I put in my notes some translations of some of the things that Jen says to Hurley, because obviously it's not subtitled. I'm going through it the way we've been doing it. I've been interested, and I've been doing it mostly on the spoiler episodes that I've done by myself, where like it interests me like what might be
being said.
Fuck yeah. That's not being translated. Because obviously, usually when that happens, it's not translated for a reason. Like either you can kind of just infer the gist of what's being said, but I feel like sometimes there's some interesting things.
If you're gonna hide something, that'd be a place to hide it.
Well, sure. Well, for example, I'm glad you said that. In the episode where Jen attacked Michael and got handcuffed to the thing, and Sun points to her wrist. And that's not translated, but if you understood Korean, you'd know she was trying to tell them it was because of the watch. So if you spoke Korean, you would have known way ahead of time that the reason Jen attacked Michael was the watch. So that's a great example of why I find it interesting to try and figure out some translations. So I mean, in this one, it was just fun stuff. So like when Hurley comes up to him when Jen's arriving at the beach. He's like, look, I'm not asking for any favors. Like, just point me to where the fish are. And then Jen says something and points to the jungle. And Hurley's like, you just said something really mean, didn't you?
Yeah.
And basically what he said was, I don't play with amateurs. Go away. And then when Hurley's like getting mad right before he steps on the urchin, and Jen's got his little pile of fish on the beach. And Jen like points to the fish and says something. And that's when Hurley steps on it. Basically what he said was, this is my fish, don't touch it. And then Hurley steps on it. He's like, what did you do? And then he's like carrying him over. He's like, just pull out the spikes, pull them out. That's basically it as far as the amusing stuff. At the end, when Sun and Jen reunite at the cave, what she asks him is, have you eaten? And he says, no, I need to wash my hands. My hands are hurting. And that's why they're looking at his hands. Might start calling that a semi-recurring segment of ours where I like point out translations and stuff.
It. Yeah.
A lot of the times it's nothing overly insightful. Sometimes it's just fun. Sometimes it's just like, oh, well, there you go.
Yeah. In case you're wondering.
Yeah. But as we get into other seasons and, spoiler alert, other languages that aren't translated, there is some stuff where it's like, oh, like that's really interesting that's what was being said at that point. So yeah, I don't have a name for this semi-recurring segment yet. I'll try and think of one by the time this is out and when I put in the time codes, but that'll be another one. 'Cause yeah, I'm noticing that because our other two semi-recurring segments, the unfortunately deleted scenes and not actually a plot hole, it's been a while since we've had anything, and I don't remember when the next one will appear. So
let's call it Translations by Chris.
Yeah,
that's stupid. We can all agree.
I don't have a lot to say about this, but the last thing I have in my notes is the title of the episode is Hearts and Minds. Once you've completed the episode, I think that, obviously there's different ways to interpret that, including the way Shannon manipulates Boone through his emotions and conning him. But the expression "hearts and minds" it typically means through propaganda, like trying to get somebody on your side politically. And so with that in mind, I think the main thing that the title of the episode is referring to is Locke. What he's doing to Boone by the end wins over Boone, his heart and his mind. Which and then because I think there's been some debate. I don't know how much we've talked about it, but in the group discussions, we kind of talked about Locke helping Charlie. Was that to genuinely help him, or was there kind of another layer? Well, I know we did because we talked about selflessness and stuff.
Yep.
Was there another layer of that where he wants to win over people to his side? Win over hearts and minds, as it were. And funnily enough, in this episode, Jack asks Charlie about his opinion of Locke, and Charlie demonstrates that, oh no, I completely trust this dude because of
this. If there's one person on this island that's going to save us,
and it's specifically because, as Charlie puts it, Locke saved his life by doing what he did. So, that kind of gives credence to that interpretation of that. Locke part of what Locke is doing is winning hearts. Well, hell, can't believe I forgot this. What Locke says at the very beginning of the episode to Boone about not alienating Saeed. Saeed's a smart and resourceful, or I forget the exact word he uses.
I think he says smart and resourceful.
It's something like that. Yeah. And he says we're going to want him on our side.
Yes.
We
want him on our team.
He says we don't want to make an enemy of him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Something.
He says we don't want to make an enemy of him. We're going to want him on our side, is I believe what he says.
Yeah. When he said that, it made me think that he was planning on splitting,
anticipating
sides.
that there could be conflict. Yeah, so it's interesting, and again ties back into the title of the episode is that you are starting to see that there might be some strategy behind Locke and what he's doing. Well, and once again, we talked about this a little bit last week, but we know that they're keeping this hatch thing a secret. And Locke's reasoning that he gives is that they wouldn't understand it. They're not ready for it.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? Like whether or not he should be keeping that a secret or not?
What I want to believe is there's no need for that. Let's get some more minds on this. Let's figure it out. It might benefit all of us.
Or if the goal is to understand it or get into it or whatever they're trying to do.
Versus to keep something to yourself to potentially have power, because that's the other thing, right? It's like the person in a plane crash or car crash, they're stranded or whatever, and they're secretly hoarding food, knowing that people are hungry and there might be somebody who's going to starve to death and whatever, but they keep it for themselves, just in case. It's the same concept. You have no idea what kind of a benefit this might be to everybody. There's people who need medicine, got to be getting low on medicine, all that stuff. and you're going to kind of almost seems like a power move. It seems very Sawyerish.
Well, instead of food or medicine, like it's knowledge or information.
Yeah,
it's almost like he wants to understand what it is before.
Yeah.
Revealing it to other people.
Which brings us to the point that that's also that nefarious side of Locke, is his whole existence. It's almost like he has this desire to be almost godlike. He's always felt connected to some destiny. It keeps revealing itself that he might be right with all the things that have happened to him. Now he can tell when it's going to rain. Minute away within a second or so, just all that other stuff.
Well, and even finding this thing, like he was following his gut. He's like saying to Boone, like, you don't feel it? Like he felt like he was being drawn to this thing. Or drawn somewhere, and then they find this thing, and so it's natural that he would assume that it was to this thing that he's being drawn. Well, and you get that little bit of interaction with him and Saeed where he talks about his childhood and being a weebelo, and he's like, I wasn't the most popular kid. And obviously that would probably play into this whole complex that he has. Because we saw the more recent part of his life where, he'd been living 4 years in a wheelchair, and that by itself kind of could explain Locke's mindset on the island. But then when you kind of get this glimpse or this hint that, it wasn't just the last 4 years.
Yeah,
like
pretty much his whole life.
Yeah, his childhood, he kind of felt discarded. Well, and I didn't have that in my notes. I don't know why. But that brings me to another thing in this episode. He's talking to Saeed. He gives him the compass. And then Jack and Saeed kind of had that interaction about the compass not pointing to where it should. And I think we talked off air a little bit about something you remember. Since you may not have anything to say about this, that's not spoilery, but...
I don't even remember that conversation we had. Was that conversation 20 years ago?
No.
I don't even remember what you're talking about.
I think it was last week.
No, but I don't remember feeling any certain way other than I thought Saeed was being rather coy when Jack said, "What are you saying?" And he's like, "Well, clearly I'm saying this compass is malfunctioning," which really that's not what he's saying at all. He's saying something's up with the island. Like something's, that's how I took it, right? Mm-hmm. Something's up with the island. I'm just trying to figure out what it is. And so, I found it interesting, which again, maybe this is what we talked about. It might be spoiler, is why that might be occurring. Maybe that's what we talked about.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Because surely the show wouldn't draw our attention to a defective compass if that's all it was.
Right.
That's exactly what was going on. Was the compass didn't work right. But so that would be the second week in a row where they've kind of established there's something weird as far as because last week it was the tide is suddenly coming in.
Yep.
In a way that's not appropriate for this time of year, and then now there's something weird going on with the compass. So it definitely is. We're starting to get more and more hints that there's something geographically odd about the island.
Yes.
Aside from just the fact that it's so massive and nobody seems to have discovered it, or hasn't been discovered because there's allegedly other people on the island. I don't know.
I had a flashback thought that I was going to tell you, and I didn't when we were talking about Boone's experience, specifically about jump scares. I'm literally standing, watching, and when he had freed her or whatever, and the first time the monster jumped or whatever and came at him in the crackle of the woods, like I swear my right leg tried to take off. Like, I'm like, what was that? Like it was perfect because I was paying attention, but it's just the music, the sound, all just the suddenness of it. It caught me off guard in a way that it's like that's not even a scene that would normally do that. Normally that's like in a scary movie at night around a corner, something like that. So I thought that was pretty cool as a side note, but
yeah. Well, I'm glad you said that because that's another thing I didn't think to mention was the monster of it all. Because obviously you learn that what Boone experiences, like certainly all of the Shannon of it, like that didn't actually happen. So was he hallucinating the monster being there as well? If so, then I guess it makes everything I'm about to ask like redundant. But like you get some behavior from the monster in what Boone experiences that is new. I don't know how much of it you may have caught because some of it is very quick.
Oh, Well, I'll tell you what I think, because there were a few things. Number one, there was almost a form, almost like a shadow.
Mm.
There was light at one point, or maybe the light came in when the monster wasn't blocking it out.
Mm.
But we're in there. They're in this grove of trees, and this thing is like trying to act like it's gone, and then it starts ramming the trees like it can't get in there or whatever. But I found that's kind of what I took from it. I still might have missed what you were referring to, but
well, you caught some of it. There's one specific thing that you haven't said yet, but and I'll get to that in a second. What you're saying about the trees, though.
Well, and if I can add the one thing to that, what kind of got me about that scene, I don't know my trees on, fake islands, but they're in this grove of trees, and when this thing starts chasing it, like I think we've seen in the past, it completely uproots a gigantic tree. Might have been a gigantic banyan if there's such a thing.
Well, hold on, because that was the thing you hadn't said yet that you see in this, and I think it's the first time you see it.
Okay, maybe that's
so the second time it shows up, the time that it ends up snatching up Shannon, Boone and Shannon are talking in front of the camera, and then like between them, like behind them, like you can see there's a tree, and then all of a sudden it gets ripped. Flying. It gets ripped up, and yeah. If you're watching carefully, like you might think that there's something weird about that. But anyways, so in this episode specifically, you see it rip up a tree.
Yeah,
I don't think it was as massive as the Banyan though. But continue what you're saying.
Well, it just made me believe that if it had the ability to do that, it could probably start ripping up pieces of this banyan tree and get to its prey, so to speak. But
so I guess that would imply that if the monster were really there, and there's good reason to think that it wasn't,
right.
But if it was, it's almost like it didn't actually want to get to Boone, because that's the other thing. We know that Boone's there by himself. He's not actually there with Shannon. It just raises the question of what was the monster trying to accomplish by ramming the tree like that? What was it trying to do? Do you have any thought on what that would be? Like what it's trying to accomplish?
I really don't. No. I mean, I can come up with stuff right now, but I there's just nothing that. There's nothing that shakes my gray matter and it's like, oh, it's probably because of this. But, unless it's working for Locke. I try to shake him into this new consciousness. But, yeah.
Well, it's that way. That's an interesting stab in the dark. Is it somehow, in some way, shape, or form, trying to accomplish the same thing that Locke's trying to accomplish? Locke wants Boone to have this experience and come away with this specific opinion of the experience. Is the monster aligned with Locke in those motives?
Well, now that you said that, thinking how the island, or potentially the island and monster, have revealed things to Locke. They do have him feeling almost godlike and all this other stuff. If it, like you said, if it's almost reading Locke's mind and knowing what Locke wants to get out of it, it's already been on the island observing the behaviors of interactions. Maybe that's exactly what it is. Maybe it's like, well, Locke needs him to experience loss. He needs him to experience this. So manifests the fact that Shannon's with him and, gives him an opportunity once again to feel like he's saving her, and then rips that out from underneath him to kind of cut the cord. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just solved it. Let's wrap this thing up.
It certainly sounds reasonable. And what I would add to it too, as far as like, I don't know if this actually adds to it, but like we're talking about the monster doing something for reasons that we don't quite understand. It goes back to when it encountered Locke and it didn't attack him or do anything to him, and instead it gave him the board that he was looking for, that he's trying to get. So we already have an example of it doing something like that, where it's like, okay, what is the monster's motives, if you will, in giving Locke that boar? Like, what was it wanting to happen, or what caused it to do that?
Winning hearts and minds.
There you go. That's the fun of it. The monster, when people don't know, and you clearly don't remember. The monster's one of the funnest things to kind of be like, what could this mean?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of different ways you could read so many of the things that it does. But okay, I don't have anything else. Do you have anything else?
Nope, I'm good.
Well, so normally we would have some fan mail to address, but this week we don't have anything that wasn't spoiler-ish. So we don't have anything to address this time, which is sad. But again, we always want to hear from you guys. Video messages, audio messages, written messages, however you want to send those in. You can either do that by emailing us at dr.candlepun@gmail.com, or if you're experiencing this on YouTube, you can just leave a comment below and we will address that on the show. It could be a response to something that we've said here in this episode, something we've said before, something we didn't say that you think we should have talked about, or that you think maybe we didn't notice that you want to point out. We love that because, as many times I've seen the show, it happens every time that I'm watching it with somebody new. People are pointing out stuff that I failed to consider or notice. Please do be part of this with us. Talk to us. We'd love to engage in some back and forth dialogue with you guys. But that's all we have for this week. We will be back next week for episode 14, titled Special.
Hope to see you then.
I would now like to give a special thank you to the currently active donors. These include candidate number 90, Ben Ward, candidate number 108, Jeffrey Winslow, candidate number 69, Brian Phillips, candidate number 32, Chuck Boyd, and candidate number 341, Hans. If you too would like to become a candidate, you can do so for as little as $1. One-time or recurring donations can be set up on Ko-fi.com/Candlepun or Patreon.com/Candlepun. A donation of any amount will get you credited in this podcast and added to the candidate wall, which will be displayed in all video versions of the episodes of this podcast from that point forward, even once you're no longer donating. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the multiple people that have donated equipment and resources that are used in the production of this podcast. These include Mary Mullins, Brandon Huth, Charles Huth, William McMahon, and Charlene McMahon. Until next time, namaste and good luck.
I don't know my trees on, fake islands, but
it's a banyan tree, if that means anything to you.
Is it a banyan tree?
Yeah.
That changes everything. I have no opinion.
To like this video, click the thumbs up. Or, if there has been an incursion by the hostiles, click the thumbs down. To leave feedback, enter a comment below. To be notified when more videos arrive, click the circle and then select the notification bell. To view previous content from this channel, click either of the two boxes.